What's happening, everyone? Today we're dropping podcast episode number 11 with my special guest, Chris Lawrence. Chris is a local investor right here in Rochester, New York. And get this, you guys, he dropped a six-figure paying job. Who wouldn't want a six-figure paying job to go full-time investing in real estate? Blows my mind, you guys. Don't miss this episode. We're going to dive into what it takes for you to take your life and your business to the next level and go full-time investing in real estate right here in Rochester, New York.
Welcome to the Flip for Freedom Show, presenting you with the best tips, tricks, and strategies that'll help you be successful in business without sacrificing life. Featuring powerful stories and insights from successful investors in both national and local markets. You'll get a clear look into the processes and mindsets that drive personal and professional achievement. True success starts with the right framework, and we want to help you build it. Now, let's get started with your host, Brett Iwanowitz.
Thanks so much for tuning in today to the Flip for Freedom Show with Chris Lawrence. This is podcast episode number 12. Hopefully I didn't screw this one up because I tend to forget what episode I'm on, but we have the opportunity to talk with a local investor out of Rochester, New York, Chris Lawrence. So Chris, why don't you do a quick introduction and just tell all the listeners a little bit about who you are and what you're doing right now.
Yeah. Super excited to be on. Thanks for having me, Brett.
Yeah, man.
So local real estate investor in Rochester. Been doing it for about 3 years. This past, January 2020, left a six-figure sales job to do it full time, to kind of go all in and see if it's something that's like, okay, this is what we want to do. We do, fix and flip, do a little bit of wholesaling, acquire rentals, and really just, kind of try to get those leads. And then I look at it as like a funnel, kind of then funnel through, like, is this a good rental? Is this a good flip? And, is this a good wholesale? And yeah, that's what we do in the real estate space. So
awesome, dude. I love hearing people making the jump from, I've never made six figures consistently. So up until this past year, but it's taken a long time. I can imagine that that's nice to have that salary come in consistently. So how, before we hopped on, we're talking about what the heck did your friends and family say when you're like, hey guys, I'm going to do real estate full time. I'm going to leave my six-figure job.
Yeah. So you got to be careful of who you're taking information from. So, yeah. If I would have listened to, and it's good to get perspective, right? So a lot of my friends and family, they're like, why are you doing this? You probably shouldn't do it. You have a safe job. And I liked my job. It wasn't that. It was just like, when I was doing the job, I'm like, man, am I going to do this the rest of my life? I just don't feel fulfilled. I'm checking all the boxes of okay, have this six-figure job, have the company vehicle, have, everything. I'm just like, man, I just feel empty. And I always liked doing, real estate and that sort of stuff. And, I do a lot of professional development and reading. And I'm like, the bigger regret would be to look back 20, 30 years and be like, man, I wish I would have done this. And whether it's part-time, full-time. And I was like, if it hit the fan, we had adequate savings. My wife has a full-time job. I'm like, I can always go back to a sales job if it's like, man, it's not a good fit or a good match. Kind of long-winded answer there, but yeah, people were like, what are you doing? Why are you leaving, this, that, and the other? So
that's an awesome mindset. And I can't say that that's one that comes easy, because I just interviewed Mike Wagner, and that was one of the things that he mentioned is he left a six-figure job to take on a storage unit that actually put him another six figures or a couple $100,000 in debt. So he left his job to get into debt, a couple $100,000 to leave. And he's like, the mediocrity of staying where I was, that was my motivation enough to take action. So were there any books that you read, or who are the friends and family that maybe kind of help you shape that mindset of well, let me look 20, 30 years down the road and look back and paint that picture of how I would feel if I didn't leave my job?
Yeah, I don't remember what it was, either a book or podcast. I listen to so much and consume so much content, Bigger Pockets or, all the big platforms. But it was really just like, man, it's like I didn't want to have the fear and regret, because there's no, at the end of the time, you can't change that. Right. And it's like, I wanted to say, yep, we can do this now, and we can change it, and we can see what it's like. And I'm like, there's, we're young. It's at the time, my wife is pregnant now, but at the time we didn't have any kids. I'm like, nah, life is not going to get any easier. So it's only going to get harder. So I'm like, now the risk is lower. Like I said, my wife still had a full-time job. We had adequate savings. Like I had savings for a year set aside. Like if I didn't make any money, we'd be able to pay our bills and everything. Obviously that didn't happen. But the risk was low. And like I said, the 9 to 5 is always there. And, as we dig into it, at some point, maybe I have to do that because my wife wants to start a private practice, and she has our medical. So it might be something where it's a hybrid. You have to adjust and kind of pivot a little bit. But for me, it was just the regret, having the regret at the end of life kind of was my motivating factor to do it and jump in.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people think that far down the road. I don't think I did either until like the last handful of years to really like, say, what would your life look like in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years if you don't make those changes today? And just kind of really have to sounds like you just thought through that process and kind of like wrote down what your life would look like. And then you realize that staying there was more of a risk than leaving, which is insane for a lot of people if they were to say that out loud.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because as I'm sure we'll dig into, it's, real estate, it's for me anyways, it's a roller coaster of emotions, and I'm still learning how to deal with that, and dealing with the fear of, or the unknown, creates fear still, even into my, kind of eyes. It's like, man, you do a deal, and then you're like, okay, you got to keep doing deals and building the business side of it. And there's fear in that. And the emotional and mental side of the real estate game and entrepreneurship, in my opinion, is huge. And I don't think people talk about it enough, to be honest.
Yeah. It's one of the things that's been hard for me is the business side of it. I'm learning about I feel like my business journey is more of a personal journey than anything. Like I'm reading this book, or I'm almost done. It's called Personality Isn't Permanent. And there's a section in that book that talks about trauma. Like you can't heal, you can't grow unless you heal from trauma. So I joined a mastermind 3 years ago. So most of my growth has been being healed from you could call it trauma. I mean, it doesn't have to be you almost dying, but there's these little changes or incidents that happen in your life that there's these seeds that are planted in your subconscious mind that make you think and act and feel in certain ways that might not align with what the person you want to be. It's like the person you used to be.
Right.
And you don't realize that those seeds have been planted, and they're actually these huge oak trees until you put yourself around successful people who are like, Brett, do you hear how you're talking to yourself? And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, you just said this. And I'm like, and then I do it again, and they're like, see? And I'm like, holy moly, you're right. So it's cool. I definitely think, is that something you want to talk about now? Because I love those types of conversations. I feel like those are the things that need to get addressed before you can actually be successful in a business.
Yeah. I think just to add to that a little bit, like how you grow up and how you were raised kind of shapes certain beliefs and limiting beliefs. Like I remember before I started, I'm like, man, I could never do more than 2 or 3 projects in a year. I'm like, it's just not possible. And then now it's like fast forward to, before I even started, and, there's a whole thing where I was scared to even do it, and you just taking action gets you through that and you learn. But now we have 3 projects going on, and it's like, man, you want more. So it's like you push those, and question, those limiting beliefs. And it's like, I think at times too, some people think that maybe someone like myself doesn't have those fears or anxieties, but it's like every property I do, there's always those fears and limiting beliefs, but it's how you push through those and you learn through those. And it's when you take, at least for me, when you take time to reflect back, it's like, man, it's like, wow, we've really, came far, and we've done properties, and, you're kind of keep pushing that comfort level and zone of, man, it's like, appreciate what you've done, because I'm a very man, I didn't hit my goals. It's like, it was, oh, what a bummer, but you look back, it's like, man, that's a great, great start and great momentum building,
Do you journal at all? Because I've found that, I think entrepreneurs, number one, they're probably their worst critic. We all have that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hit my goals, but then you look back like the past 6 months and you're like, wow, this is just a random example, but like maybe I didn't buy the amount of homes I wanted to buy, but I wrote the amount of offers that I needed to write. So like
Right.
to me, though, the writing the offers is the huge win, and you can celebrate that. But if you're looking at I didn't buy this many homes, then you're gonna feel like shit, right? So you have to look at the different metrics of the things you can control is what I learned, like the amount of people I reach a day. Like I can control that. I have some control over the homes I buy. Like, that's my expertise of working with a seller. I somewhat have control over that, but not full control. But if I write down the things that I can actually do myself and manage, and then reflect on those and journal on those and pay attention to those, I've realized that prevents me from mentally going like up and down, up and down, up and down.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's great. So I'm very big with like a morning routine. So like every morning I'll, meditate, do a guided meditation for 15 minutes just to get like, I kind of think of it. And I heard it like a podcast, like getting your body armor, right, to fight the day. And then I'll, journal, like I'll gratitude, like every day, like I started that last year, like what's 3 things I'm grateful for, like breathing, a roof over my head, running water, just something very simple. So you're starting from a time and space of gratitude. And, so that's really been helpful and impactful for me. And, yeah, cause it is a wild ride. That's for sure. It's not easy by any means, at least for me, emotionally, it's challenging still to this day. And, we've done, handfuls of deals. So,
so for the viewers out there, can you share like what you do for that guided meditation? Is there, I know there's so many different types of meditation, but like what did you find that works for you? And like, why did you choose that type of guided meditation?
Yeah. So I think I started doing a morning routine after I read, what was it? Hal Elrod. He has a book.
Yep.
I think it's
Miracle Morning.
Yeah, Miracle Morning. Yeah. So I read that, and then I when I first started, I had like an hour. I did his whole. I think he calls them savers. So I did all those, and for me, it was just it became too much time. But I really liked, the journaling and the meditating, and actually I would read I like Stoicism, so I'd read a page from a daily Stoic. But yeah, so I listened to. I've been shifting lately. I think it was like a Calm app I would use, but now I really like to go on YouTube, and Abraham Hicks is a great person that has like gratitude meditations, or like she believes in like a law. It's like law of attraction stuff.
Yep.
And vibrations, and it sounds hokey. And I was like, when I first started, I'm like, that is just crazy. But for me, it works, and it's a routine, and that's how I've been starting my day for or days for over a year. So
awesome, dude. It is definitely not hokey, and I wish. Because the truth is, whatever you want to call it, there's so many different names of, you can call it law of attraction, whatever it is. But like I listened to this podcast I think it was last week, where it talks about, when we think about the past, and, a lot of people let those past experiences shape who they are in the future. And that chemical reaction in your brain is the same chemical reaction that you would have if you actually just pretended to be who you want to be in the future now. So you can literally trick your brain to be who you want to be by just changing how you talk to yourself. Like you have that same chemical reaction as if you let those past experiences determine your future. So you can change all that chemically, which freaking blows my mind. It's so crazy that it's simple, but we both know that is probably one of the most difficult things to do.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that it is so hard. And like, even now, like you have the self-doubt. And, for me at times, I find myself comparing myself to other people on social media, and you have these pressures to do this. And it's like, I feel like you just, kind of stay in your lane, and that positive self-talk is so huge. And just telling yourself, just being positive and looking at lens of like, okay, this, it's a negative, I guess, if you look at it that way, but what's the positive from it? Like what did I learn? What lessons can I apply to go forward? So that's kind of the way I try to look at things. Like, okay, it's not ideal, but okay, where can it is what it is. How do we make this a better situation and move forward? And at the end of the day, do the right thing.
Yeah, I love that. There was a quote that kind of changed. It was pretty impactful. I still use this quote all the time, but there's no bad unless you choose to do nothing with it, which is essentially what you're saying. You have to stop and say, all right, I don't like this, but this is life. So like, let's make this a win. Like, what can I learn out of it? Learn from this so it doesn't happen again, or it doesn't happen to someone else around me. And then how can I take that and share with other people so they don't make the same mistakes that I just made?
Right. And and I read a really good book. It was Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. And it's kind of like the green light is like, okay, life is happening. It's great. Everything's good. But how do you react when you have a yellow light, when you have a red light? And it's, it's just kind of, I won't give the book away, but it's just saying like, okay, when you react, these things happen for you. And how like you just never know, like you treat these things as how they come and you move forward. And just like Matthew McConaughey, a famous actor and very well known. But you listen to a story, it's like, oh my gosh, like he didn't have this. Yep. Day one, I'm going to be an actor. Like so many things he kept going through and pushing. And so that was a great read and just kind of aligned with a lot of my thinking and thought process. So I could relate to it.
That's awesome, dude. That wasn't he just write in, he just had some book come out. What maybe it was his autobiography. Is that the book that you're talking
Green
about?
Lights. Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Cause that showed up in my Audible plan. And I'm like, interesting. Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Matthew McConaughey. But the reviews were really good. I was really surprised.
Yeah, I never really was a big fan, but everyone was raving about it and a lot on the social stuff. I'm like, wow, let's give it a read. And it was very interesting and had some depth to who he is and kind of how he was brought up. And just one point that stuck to me is his mom was very influential in his life, but was very hard on him, but would always tell him that gave him confidence. And he was looking at a photo that his mom said, yeah, Matt, you won like Mr. Texas, when you were 10 years old. And he looked at the photo and it was runner up. And he's like, Mom, you said I won. He's like, yeah, you didn't need to know that you won, so it's just cool, how all these things play into, play into each other with mindset and just kind of persistence. And it was just a good read. So
that's awesome, dude. So let's get into some meat and potatoes, man. This is a conversation that I'm going to enjoy having with you. So for you guys listening, I was sharing with Chris, and I'll be completely vulnerable here. Like, I've been in real estate a long time, but I really didn't know how to turn real estate into a business. And what I can share with you guys is that there are so many distractions in this industry. The biggest struggle that I've had is like putting a business plan together for 12 months, putting a budget together for 12 months, planning that out and actually sticking to it and just doing what that plan is and not, not coming off of that plan to say, oh, this dude's marketing this, like it's working, I need to do this, or just letting the distractions and noise, like you said, everyone, like it's hard to pay attention and to focus when you have all these people telling you should be doing this and you should be doing that, or this is working for me. And here you are, you created this whole business plan for the next 12 months. And then all of a sudden, a month later and you scrap that and start all over again. So that's what I struggle with for years is that, I had somewhat of an idea, but it wasn't a complete thought or finished idea. And so I always got distracted by what other people are doing. And I would just waste money. I'm like, I'm going to try this, or I'm going to try this. And I'm just wasting money everywhere. And then I'm cashing these massive checks and I'm like, where's my money? I was like, I just made 50 grand. And it's like, oh yeah, you got to pay 15 grand in your taxes over here. And all these other things, like who's managing your books, like who's tracking all your expenses, who's tracking your KPIs. Like there's so many things to consider when it comes to actually creating a business in this space that I'm going to keep rambling on, but let's dive into that and talk about your business is fairly new. And I guess I would say mine is somewhat new too, to have a legitimate business where I can track all my metrics. So what 100%. Are some of the things that you are struggling with as a business owner, as an entrepreneur right now?
Yeah, 100%, dude. I mean, when I started in 19, to kind of go full bore, it's like, man, much like everyone, you set out your goals. It's like, okay, I'm going to do 12 flips. I'm going to wholesale $5,000 a month. I'm going to acquire, $1,000 a month in new cash flowing rentals. We accomplished some of our goals, but we didn't hit them. But the hard part is there's no one telling you what to do. And that's the good part of being an owner is like, there's no one telling you what to do. That's the good and the bad.
Yeah.
And then so like for us, we started out back in 19, I had a coach, and they did kind of done for you marketing. Right. And, we were spending like $5,000 a month with that in over 3 months. You're spending 5, 10, 15. Like, man, we didn't close any leads. It didn't really work for us, and you're spending that money, and it's like, man, how do you continue to keep doing this? So it's like, okay, we pivoted, and it's like, okay, so what did I take from that? I learned a lot of great, like, okay, how do you even how do you start a business? Like, how do you reach out to motivated sellers to build a pipeline of deals? And you're like, oh, okay, so if I buy one now, it's like, okay, now I need to buy another one, and you got to keep, I guess you just learn a lot, but it's very hard to to your point though, like with the marketing budget, and it's great business. You can make $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 with flips, but you also, what I'm learning is like, okay, how do you then, dial back your marketing to where it's effective? Like you and I think, with like, okay, what's a good marketing source? And it's like, okay, online isn't going anywhere. And I feel like more people are going to be going to there. So it's like, okay, I'm going to really focus in on SEO and my website and doing that type of marketing to where, okay, I know that this is going to work. It's going to take time. It's going to be an investment, but it's doing those things every single day and not having a result in that delayed gratification. It's like, man, is this working? I just spent, $1,000 here, $1,500 there. My website's this, we do a lot of the pay-per-click that works great, but it doesn't run on love, right? You're spending, $2,500 a month on that, and then you got to have someone to manage it, and you might go, real estate's cyclical. People aren't going to sell to you when Chris Lawrence or Brett needs to sell. Like, okay, I got to hit 3 flips this month. So you got to be able to ride it out and be able to look at it over a 12-month window. Like if I'm reflecting back from last year, like we didn't hit our flip number, but we were able to crack into just into 6 figures. But when you look at your bottom line, like, man, we spent like $50,000 in marketing. So it's like, how do you improve that? How do you do more marketing for less money? And for me, it's like, I don't, like I used, I tried everything, texting and RVMs. And for me, it just I didn't feel like didn't align with who I was, because a lot of people, it just didn't feel good, so it's like, how can I build this? And is it possible? Like, is this possible to do 12 flips a year or 10 flips and meet our numbers with, SEO or pay-per-click? And, so you're figuring all those things out and, trying to, okay, like you just cracked into 6 figures, you're spending $50,000. It's like, man, I'd go get a job for $50,000 and be less stressed and have benefits. And, like I said, now I'm, my wife and I, she's pregnant and we'll be having a kid. So some of my, not beliefs, but just thoughts, it kind of shifts and changes, so it's like, I guess you look at life through seasons and just go through different stuff. So it's like, okay, how can I build this thing to keep going? And it aligns with me, doing what I do, and what I like doing. And that's been the challenge, man, is to your point, is just, there's so many things like this marketing channel, that, direct mail, and trying to narrow in and doing the things that generate money, and saving your time, because everyone wants a piece of your time. And if you don't save it, you're going to be doing a lot of things that don't necessarily make you money or put food on the table,
No, I agree. I think it was cool that I'll share with you. One of the things that I told myself, it was a little over a year ago, but like, if I'm going to do wholesaling full time, like I'm not going to tap into personal funds I'm not going to turn it into a charity. Like I had charity businesses before where I would just like, I got the money over here. So I'm like, I'll just we'll just put it in there and keep spending marketing money, right? And then all of a sudden you have a $50,000 marketing bill at the end of the year, right? But I told myself, I'm like, look, I have this amount of money and I have to be successful with this amount of money. So I went in the red. And the only reason I could afford to get through that red was because I don't know if this counts or not, but I had a credit line of $5,000 in that business account. So that's what got me through the red. But when I first started, like I decided to do texting. That was going to be like, that's my thing this year. That's all I'm going to do. I'm doing SEO too, but like texting is my thing. Like I'm going to make it work regardless of what I need to figure out. That's it. That's like my main channel. I'm going to figure that out, make it work. I don't care what it takes. It's going to happen. Yeah. But we're 9 months in. It took me almost 10 months. Like, by the grace of God, like I got out of the red. I had to find ways to cut my budget back. I had to call my coach and call my mentors and be like, hey, I'm going broke. Like, what do I do? I don't know how to keep this marketing going, because if I don't close this deal, then I'm done. I'm going to have to, pull it from my personal account. Like I'm going to have to turn this business into a charity again. And I don't want to do that. So it really forced me to work a lot harder. Like I thought I was working hard, but then I realized there's more that I can do. But it took a big network. Like I pay $800 a month for my coach and my mastermind. But that pain, like if it wasn't for that group, I wouldn't have been able to figure out the changes that I need to make to keep going. Now, thank God, like I have most of my marketing covered for this year, but it's freaking hard, man. And it's a small budget. It's like $24,000. Like that's my budget. And like, I want to do Google PPC and I can't afford it. So like I have my budget.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, and you're going to get deals with text, like all the marketing channels work. It's just like, are you going to be consistent with it? And are you going to hold yourself accountable? Like, okay, if I say I'm going to text 150 or 200 or 300 every day, no matter what the emotion is. And that's the hard part, is because it's easy to do the things when you're getting the results and you're doing a flip for 20, 30 grand, 40 grand, but it is hard to do that stuff when you're not getting the results that you want and taking the emotion out of it, and that's what I found is hard. Because even when you spend, with PPC or whatever it is, there's no guarantees, but like on Friday, I was like, if we would have had this podcast last week, Monday or Tuesday, I said, Brett, I'm selling everything I have. I am done with real estate.
A month ago.
Yeah. I'm done. Like, I'm going to go get another job. Like I had fun. Like I'll keep some of my rentals and like, I'll have a good retirement, but then like, the middle of the week, it's because I'm dealing with 3 rehabs and dealing with contractors and going a little over budget. And we're in New York and it's winter and I have to do exterior stuff and a pool, so all these different things. And then, oh, by the way, one of my tenants is like, just not, being disgruntled and, and then, so there's that, and then you're over budget and it's like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And we're not getting leads and we're spending money. And it's like, what am I doing? Like, can I even do this? What, like, I think it's like imposter syndrome. Like, am I a fake? Like, I don't even know I can do this. Like we did 11 deals last year and it's like, you question it. So it's, that mindset is huge. But then on Friday at 5, a lead, that we got through PPC, which would, it's in like Penfield, Brighton area, awesome. Called and, it's a good opportunity. And, he wants to work with us. And, he was like, at first he's like, yeah, I got to have 230 or, something, close to retail. I'm like, oh shoot, it's, we're not a good fit. Like I'm no pressure sales. Yep. I'm like, hey, we're not a good fit. Like, hey, I'd love to help you. We could help you certainly list that or give you advice. And, and I think, kind of to give a little tip is like having posture with the sellers, like, hey, that's just not going to work. And having that, like kind of having your non-negotiables, like, hey, it's not going to work for what we're going to do. And then just having a follow-up process and then following up. And then, he called me and said, like, yep, I want to sell. Like, we haven't got to the closing table yet. Like, something could fall through, but he's open to working with me. And at the end of the day, I always try to give, what's best for the seller, like, and just being forthfront, like open and honest, like, hey, if you want your most money, we're probably not a good fit. There's a solution for you. If you want speed and convenience and, flexibility, and you're willing to kind of forego some equity, then maybe we can do something. There's a lot of different ways we can buy and that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's a grind, man. It's not easy, you know?
So there's a couple things that I want to unpack there. The first thing is you and I had the same experience. You hired a coach. Well, somewhat similar. You hired a coach and you kind of have this one size fits all marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you in the past year, I created this business model, and I was paying for a lot of things that I really didn't need yet because I didn't have the leads that required to pay for these other amenities like answering services and things like that. So like, what advice would you kind of give to someone like just getting started? Because, hiring a coach and then having to pay for marketing like that, that's a huge, like, that's a big ask. And I know from my own experience, like I almost went mad. Like I had to call people every month and like, how do I make more money? How do I make more money? Like, how am I going to afford this? What am I doing wrong? What can I change? And then finally I'm like, I was going crazy, I feel like. So what would you suggest someone getting started to like, how do you start marketing without walking down that path? Because I wouldn't necessarily want that for someone. That coaching is great, but like walking into such a big demand in New York, because like I closed a deal today. It's like 9 months, dude. It took me 9 months to get to the closing table.
Dude, I have one that we had under contract a year ago. It kind of fell through. The lady went kind of berserk, and now we have it under contract again. And this is like 13, 14 months. It'll be like a $40,000 lead if we can get it, but it's a probate. There's so much things, there's not just someone, oh yeah, I want to sell my property at a discount. We're going to give you, you'll make 30, 40 grand. You got to work for it. But if someone was starting out, I try to think back, like when I first started, I connected with a girl I went to high school with. Her dad has done and is still doing a lot of real estate. He's done it for 30 years, and he did it through foreclosure and going down to the court steps. And I really just tried to add value to him and showed my like just pure enthusiasm in who I am. Like I'm willing to learn. I'll help you out, like whatever. And we began to formulate this relationship, and we were able to, he was able to help me and guide me, and I asked questions and that sort of stuff. And then was able to have the coach and network and, met Joe LaPabera. And I feel like I was very fortunate when I first started. I was able to, knock on wood. I still have never lost on a flip. I've been very fortunate to get good deals and been very successful from the jump. So like, I'd say just having a strong network or a coach or someone that's doing what you want to do and then trying to help them out. Like perfect example, like I have someone that now is just working for me five hours a week. I met him he reached out to me on TikTok. He's really good with video editing and doing different stuff. And his goal was to wholesale one property. So like, I'm pretty much giving him like, hey, this is my operation. This is how I do it. If you can help give me some time. And, he really likes to cold call. So like he wants to cold call. I'm like, hey, if you want to cold call, you get, so it's just, I guess, adding value and being able to, define what you want to do, because, the how to flip a house or wholesale or acquire a rental, that's the easy part. Like the kind of, once you learn that formula, but it's how do you get there and who do you need to lean on to do it? Because that's the key, having someone where, I remember my first flip, I couldn't sleep for a week after I bought it. I woke up one morning, I bought it at like 4 or 5 in the morning. I made all the wrong mistakes. I was there doing the work. I mean, the flip turned out great. We were able to make, good profit, but I was scared out of my mind, man, so you got to have a little faith. You got to have a little luck. You got to, have a good network of people that have your best interest. Like, I don't know if any of your listeners know Joel Habera, but I met him at a RIA, we connected. And he's like, make sure you reach out to me, because not a lot of people do that and they don't follow through and it gets hard. And I kept reaching out to him. And then one day he sent me an email, and it was a property in Henrietta. We were able to buy it. And I think he made $15,000 and I made $30,000. And it's like just doing those types of things and meeting those people and following through with what you say you're going to do are huge. And just being a good person, and you'll get to where you want to go and you'll find the right people.
Yeah, that's a great point, Chris. I think a lot of people come into this and like for me, the big game changer was like stop asking people for things and start asking for like how I can help people.
Hmm.
But you can reach out to people and say hi, but the truth is like those guys like Joe or the guys like you, like you're helping that kid out now. Like I know for me right now, my time is my most valuable resource. So like I'm only going to give you my time if you say, "Hey, Brett, I'm interested in doing this," and then you leave and I never hear back from you, you never do anything or never follow up. Like, why would I ever invest time in you if you called me back a month later and be like, "Hey, I'm ready now"? It's like, well, what happened, 30 days ago? So the fact is, like, if you're ready to do this, like, you have to be like Chris. You have to be proactive. You have to start reaching out to people, even if you don't know what you're doing. Like, that's all I care about. If you have no idea what you're doing, but you're taking action and asking questions and being proactive, like I will work with you before anyone else because like you have what it takes. You just need some direction. And I think that's huge. And I interviewed my friend Lee because he had a similar story of just like networking and someone kind of showing him the ropes. Like you literally need no money or expertise to get started. All you need is the right mindset and the
Right.
right person to see that. And they will invest their time in you if you have that right mindset.
Yeah. And two, like just being vulnerable, like, hey, I don't know all this stuff, or like I'm learning, like, but I'm willing to help. Like, hey, is there any weakness in your business? Like, do you need help, like meeting contractors or checking in material, or like, I love to door knock, or I love to do X, Y, and Z. I'll be willing to give my time to learn.
Yep.
There is not one person that have reached out to me, said, I'm really good at X, Y, and Z, and it was my weakness. And they were a good person and it worked. I'd be like, I would say no to.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
and two, like before I even started in real estate, I did so much reading and learning. And like, I think I listened to every single Bigger Pockets podcast
Damn,
twice.
that's a
Like
lot. That's
I
a
did. Yeah.
lot.
There was like 300 episodes or something at the time. Like I didn't know what wholesaling was. I didn't know what any of this stuff was, but I read, I believed you can achieve whatever you want. And, just taking that action but putting the time in. Like, it's not easy, like, to do it, but if you put the time in and you define like what you're looking to accomplish, and try not to get caught up in what everyone else is doing, because someone else that might have 1,000 units, that they're doing it for a different why,
Yep,
and
exactly.
what's your why? Like, there's nothing wrong with having one or two rental properties, and then that's your retirement, and you have a 9 to 5 or whatever, so it's just try not to draw those, compare yourself, I guess. Just be clear with what you're looking to accomplish.
Yeah, man. I think that's the probably one of the biggest reasons you and I, it sounds like, can start walking down the wrong path is like we're distracted on what everyone else is doing. But then if I know you'd agree with me, like when I sit down and reflect on what I want, like it's not like I don't want what those other people have. But sometimes like even our minds can get confused, like with what other people want or what other people are doing. It totally just shifts our mindset and like, am I doing this right? Or should I be thinking about this differently? So you have to have those things defined, right?
Right. And it's like when I first started, like, man, I wanted to flip, maybe like 20, 30 house a year. And it's like, you could do that, but like, okay, there's going to be X, Y, and Z that come along with it. You're going to be dealing with contractors. You're going to be dealing with, potentially, just there's so many moving parts, and that's fine. There's a few people in Rochester that do hundreds of flips a year, and they just have that model and it works for them. But for me, like, the reason I left my job, and I had freedom and flexibility, but it was just to be my own boss. And for me, it's like, okay, can I build enough passive income from rental properties to just be financially free, and then be able to have maximum time because for me, it's family and friends. Like I realize that time is so finite. Like I like the grind and the hustle, and I'm type A, and sometimes I can't turn it off. But like for me, it's like, can I build this to where I can have passive income where it's not a headache, and I enjoy it, and I feel like I'm making a difference. And then also be able to be on the beach in Florida with my family or wherever, whatever that looks like, my kids' games, or just, not do anything for a week or two, so it's just, figuring what that looks like, and
Yeah, man.
the road is never paved. That's for sure.
I love that. I love that vision, man. One of the things I want to touch on is the marketing. I think we have a clear idea of like how someone can get started. Because that's some of the best advice you could ever give someone. But like, all right, I'm new to investing, Chris. Like, what do I invest in? What type of marketing tactics do I have? Like what would that advice be to me if I started asking you those questions? Like, what would you say?
Yeah, I guess it really just depends what the person what the person's that's asking the question. What do they bring to the table? Are they really good and they like the door knock? Do they like to cold call? Do they want to text? And just understanding that, like, okay, if you're texting and cold calling and doing direct mail, you're going to have a lot of people that, or at least I found, someone might found different. You're going to have a lot of people that are angry at you, and just could potentially yell, be screaming. And for me, that didn't work. Cause I'm like, man, why are they like, I'm just trying to, like, if they want to sell, I want to help them. And I'm like, man, I am a good person. Like, I just want to help you. Like, if there's anything I can do, and they're just coming from a different way of thinking. Yep. But if that stuff doesn't bother you, you can text, or you could, do something that's, pull lists and go door knock. And if you have time and hustle, you're going to get a deal. But for me, like, I've found, and I'm sure you found too, that like pay-per-click and SEO leads, they take time and there's money associated with them. But I think like 1 in 10 or 1 in 15 leads I'll convert into a deal. Like these conversations are much more like, hey, there's a problem, they're reaching out, how can I help you? Like kind of going onto the website. Like, I know you value website and that sort of stuff is important. Like the one lady, we just bought one in White Coat Village. She's like, before she even called me, she's like, I knew I had to sell to you because I knew you before I even spoke to you. Like, you just seemed like a good person and coming from a genuine space. And so like that type of marketing, like when you're helping someone, like her father inherited a property. He's 85 years old. He lived in Geneva, and he's been coming back and forth for the past, like 6 months. And it was just such a burden for him. Yeah. And we walked them down the road, like, okay, you could list this and you probably could get $20,000 to $30,000 more. And I said, this is what that looks like. If that's what you want to do, we can help you. They're like, nope. Okay. I could probably, find a buyer or someone that could pay maybe not quite as much as that number, but could probably pay a little bit less. Would that work? She's like, no, I don't want to, the back and forth. Like, I just want like, hey, we just want a solution. And we know in 30 days, we want someone to be able to close. Yeah. So it was kind of a long-winded thing, but I feel like those are the type of leads that I like to help. I love to help the people out that, are appreciative and, are in a situation where we can, where I've found that I can add value and help them. And then also, get a really good deal too, and, feel good about the whole situation. And so that type of marketing is, worked for me. But it's more money. It costs more money. So it's like, if you don't have any money, you might have to do some of these other marketing channels until you can fund the marketing. But really, I never knew, like, no one ever told me that, like, when different types of marketing, there's different responses and it's a numbers game, like you can do this, but you're going to get X, Y, and Z. So I guess that's what I'd recommend. And really it's hard to say what someone should do, but know your strengths and know what you can do, learn it, and then apply it. And you're going to make mistakes. I still make mistakes every day, and you're never not going to make a mistake, in my opinion. So
yeah, people either have time or money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have a lot of time, the best leads you're going to get are from like PPC or SEO. Like, even if you combine the two, like one day all this miracle will happen where I combine the two when I add that to my budget. And if you have time, you have to do the things that most people just don't like doing, which is cold calling and texting. Even direct mail is expensive, but you can get started with very little money. You can skip trace someone for 15 cents and cold call them. You and your friends can get like $500-600 and have, hundreds and hundreds of people to call. But like, that's the hardest part of getting into this business. So like, if you have no money, you have to pick the thing that you might hate, and you're going to have to freaking do it until you can afford to pay for something else. And then it's like, all right, well, what happens when you guys start making money? Like, I started reading this book, I think it's Profit First. Like, pay yourself, every time you get paid, a certain percentage of that paycheck goes into all these different accounts, right? You have payroll, you have taxes, or you have your vacation fund. So like, people make the mistake when they start making money right away, they freaking spend it. And then they never wholesale again because it broke. Like
right.
they're not thinking long term. They don't have a business model. They don't understand how money works. And that's the hardest part. I think you and I agree is like how to get that money to work for you. Cause you might just make 15 or 20 grand, but you could look 12 months from now, that's really nothing.
Runs out quick by the time you pay taxes and that sort of stuff. And the problem is you need to reinvest in the marketing, because it's great that you did a deal today. What are you going to do for tomorrow and the next day and the next month? It's like, if you're going to if that's all you want to do is one deal a year and you're good with it, that's good. But if you want to wholesale one a month, you got to have a consistent plan. And like that's to be transparent. Like that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, can SEO and pay-per-click meet my goals? Or like, okay, does this inbound marketing channel work for that? Or do I need to mix it with another, channel of like, okay, can we do it, have two channels that are good, and can do the leads that you want? But I find myself in a trap, like when I first started, like in a trap of dipping my toes into PPC, dipping my toes into texting, dipping it into direct mail. If you're going to do something, just go 100% into one thing. And then once you have that marketing method or channel dialed in, then, try to go to something else. But yeah, I mean, we really can't do it now, but like networking is huge too. Like going to RIA groups or, figuring out a way to, pull on PropStream or a data provider, like, cash buyers, and then get their criteria and try to, hustle and network. And I mean, that's how I got my first handful of deals, probably 6-7 deals. Like it was just all networking and referral stuff. It didn't cost me anything. Yep. I'm like, man, I just made a grant, $27,000 on a flip. I just made 20 grand. There's $47,000. I had no marketing. And I'm like, wow, that's awesome. And then you learn like, okay, you're spending 3, 4, 5 grand a month. That adds up quick. You can spend it, but like over a period of time, is that spend worth, what you got in return?
Yeah, man. I think if you guys listening were to take one thing out of this podcast, well, there's a lot of golden nuggets, but I think the biggest one for me that I've learned is like, if you're going to choose a marketing method, you need to have a plan for at least 12 months. And if you can't afford to do that marketing campaign for 12 months, then that's not the right one for you. You need to pick something that you can do consistently and then master it. Like I have a friend in Philly, Josh Bacon. He's awesome. Like I talked to him a lot about wholesaling. He was on the podcast. He's been in sales for quite a long time. He's I don't know. This dude is, I'm going to keep talking about him. He's awesome. He's got, his business model is just dialed. I mean, it's dialed into the T. And I think he netted like 250 this year, and he wants to come and do like $500,000 next year. And that was on, I don't know, like 20 deals or something like that. So it wasn't a crazy amount of deals. And I think he spent 20 grand. So that's a dialed in business right there.
Right.
To do over 200,000 on 20 grand.
No question.
And he can afford to do other methods of marketing now, but like I just watched how these guys tune their business and just get it super dialed in. And it's not easy, like going from direct mail and looking at your numbers and saying like, he almost ran out of marketing money too. And he's like, this direct mail is not working. I need to figure out and shift, because I'm just, you go 6-7 months not making any money. At some point you have to make a decision and decide to go another route. But then how do you do that? And for me, it's like I tap into a network where people already have business models that are successful. So basically I take their business model. I don't have to learn anything. I don't have to do any more training. I'm just like, this is it. And I just plug it right in. Now it's still hard to get started, but I already know what works because someone else or multiple people are doing this. And that's such a huge thing to tap into with a network. And I wouldn't even be able to do it without these guys in my life. So that's another investment. If you guys are listening, like whether or not you have the money for it, like Chris and I both paid for coaches, and I still pay for a coach in a mastermind because I need those people to help me be successful.
Well, dude, before I left my sales job, I don't know if you know him, Ryan Pineda. He's a huge investor out in Las Vegas. And I connected with him on social. I spent $5,000 to spend 2 days with him to learn
awesome.
What he's doing, how he's doing it. And you just learn so much. Cause I'm like, how is that even possible? Like I can't even wrap my head around flipping 100 houses a year or 150, and just the mindset and the stuff it takes, so I'm not saying do that, but it's like, you have to be willing to invest in yourself, to get a return, and
I spent $8,000 on sales training last year. So
Yeah, you know all about it, and it's okay. So you get you nail down the marketing, you
Yep.
have a good network, you get the lead. Okay, what do you do now?
Yes.
What do you
That's a whole nother business, right?
right?
Sales.
Yeah, are you a good people person? Do you know what you're talking about? And okay, so you say you're going to buy the house for 40, 50 grand, and they agree. Now, can you? Are you
Yep.
going to are you going to, so there's a whole kind of rhythm and flow with, getting the leads is great, but can you convert the leads you're getting, and, monetize it? That's a whole nother thing, but, getting leads is a challenge, because there's a lot of competition and competitors, and everyone wants
Yep.
to try it and think, it's easy, but.
What's the hardest part of that for you? So let's look, I'm going to pull three things out of that conversation. Your marketing, right? That's your lead gen. Then you have I guess you have your marketing lead manager. I guess, or maybe there's just two. And then you have your acquisition manager, right? So there's all these big businesses, they have different positions. Like they have a marketing firm, they have a lead manager, and then they have an acquisition manager, and then they have a disposition person. So you have 4 team members running this one deal, right? So essentially we're playing the role of 4 people in this business. What's the hardest part for you? Is it the marketing? Is it managing, being the lead manager and following up with these people? Is it the acquisition and negotiating with the seller, or is it the disposition part of it?
I would say for me, like my strength is I love getting in people's living room and having conversations, because I can build rapport. I be myself. I'm myself.
Yep.
And I love to do that. And it gives me power. Like I feel like it's just like you're in a flow state. Like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. I love doing this. What I'm learning is I'm not that good of a marketer, so it's like, I had to figure out like, okay, who else is good? I read it. It's Who Not How. It was a great book.
I just bought that. I have it.
Dude, yeah, you're going to love it. But it's not how am I going to do it? It's who out there can help me do this. That's what they love to do. And that's what their strength is. And so I'd say the marketing piece is, I realized I'm not a marketer. I don't really like to beat my own drum and do that sort of stuff. That's not me. But you need to find, marketing is still, trying to figure that out and dial that in. And then 2, it's like, I'm learning that like following up with these leads is like, we have a CRM, but it's like, you can't, in my opinion, you gotta work these leads. And,
Yep.
I'm marketing, I'm following up with leads, I'm project managing, I'm meeting with sellers, and then I'm, closing the deals, and then having rentals. So it's like there's only so many hours in a day, and you can only do so much. And that's what I'm learning is like, you gotta have good people, doing those jobs that you don't really like, because if you're putting it off for a reason, it's probably not something you like to do. And maybe you should question if it's something you should be doing. And are you doing it at are you doing it at 50% when someone that loves to do it could do it at 110%,
Yep. Yeah, that's such an awesome point. Like I'm with you on going on appointments. Like if I go on an SEO or a Google PPC appointment, like those ones, I feel like they're just perfect. Like everything works out perfect. Like I don't need to sell them. When I say selling to me, the difficult part of it is just asking uncomfortable questions. And they're not really uncomfortable as much as you make them seem to be uncomfortable, at least in my opinion, because the truth is when you ask an uncomfortable question, you can't serve them to the best of your ability unless you ask uncomfortable questions. But if you get a really good lead come in, you don't even ask those questions because they're just telling you. And then you're just like, you just be direct with them and say, well, I can do this. And they're like, okay, let's do it.
Right.
But then you go on other appointments where like, you just got to dig deep and deep and deep. And they're challenging. And I'm finding that I really do like that challenge, but it's still, sometimes I question, am I still the best person to be doing that? Now, I don't know yet. The reason I like to challenge myself, because I really want to grow into see if I am going to be that person. But right now, like I'm spending a lot of my time, like I built out a training to bring on a VA. Like we built out a whole training module, like our own training. I don't know if we had to do that or not. It's been a long process to take over my texting because like you said, like we wear these so many hats and like I just don't have the time to do other things in the business that that are more suited for my strengths. So like,
Yeah.
that's another part of a business.
And dude, it's tough too. Cause like I like to take all this stuff on, and I don't like, I'm the only one that's going to do it.
Yeah.
And but it's hard to then, how am I going to pay someone when you're not hitting your numbers or when you're doing that stuff? But I'm trying to work on the right mindset. Like, okay, how much money am I losing out on because I don't have the right people in the right spot, and I'm too overwhelmed, and I'm working, 6-7 days a week, like just on the weekends and waking up early, which is fine and good. But, you're on the rat race. It's like, how does this stop? So you're just, building the business, at least for me. It ain't easy, but, you keep on going and keep learning and connect with the right people for sure.
Awesome, man. Well, we got to wrap this up, Chris. So for you guys out there, if you listen to this whole podcast episode, thank you. I think some of the golden nuggets, we can call it, I think, is like networking. I think networking is huge, like finding your tribe and finding the people who can support you, because that plays a significant role in also your mindset, which I would say which is the personal development side of a business, and understanding how a business works, how to manage a budget, how to look 12 months from now and put a marketing plan together and be consistent with that, right? So all these things play such an impactful role in one another. And then when you get in the business, like, number one, it's not easy. You're wearing all these different hats. So like, how do you know what the right decision is or what you're doing is right? And I think we hit this pretty well. It's like, you have to have a vision for what you want. And sometimes that's hard because the vision we create is almost, it can be a duplicate or similar to what other people want. So sometimes that road that we're on, like, we don't know that until we start making the decisions and saying, well, it's not something that I really want. And then you make those micro adjustments.
Well, yeah. And just to go on that, like, don't get so set on like the vision of, like, when I first started, I had a completely different vision because I thought that's what I wanted. But when you get into it, don't be afraid to pivot or change or re-navigate to what makes sense for you after you're in it and you're learning. And I'd say another big thing is, really, if I didn't have my one mentor or friend now, Brad, there's no way I would have made it. And for me, like, it is tough. It is, it is a tough world out there. And especially when you're trying to be an entrepreneur and a business person, it is a challenge, and it's not always going to be roses, and, it's not always going to be that way. Not saying it won't be, there's definitely great things, but it's a challenge. So just surround yourself with good quality people that have your best interest and align with what you want to do, and you can do it.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. What tickles me the wrong way now is all the gurus, like, I mean, they paint a picture of this being like something so easy. And I can tell you from experience, like, I'm coaching people. And so I've been coaching people for about 12 months now. I think it's actually been a little bit over 12 months. And at the end of the 12 months, I absolutely love it. I'm going to keep doing it, but it made me reevaluate, like, if I can change someone's life and literally change their mindset and how they think and help them reach their financial goals, like, I don't even think you put a dollar amount on like what someone should pay for that. So like, I don't know. I'm only sharing that, you guys, because if you can find a mentor that is willing to guide you through these difficult parts of life, that is willing to invest in you without having to pay for it, like, find that person. But, not that there's anything wrong with paying for a mentor or a coach, but like, that's where the accountability side comes in too, and other people come into play in there. But yeah, I mean, you can't put a dollar amount on someone stepping in and literally changing the course of your life.
Yeah, because there is, I feel like we talked a little bit about the challenges, but there is severe upside. Like, I had my sales job, and then I made it on a flip $40,000, and I only had 15 hours of my own time into the deal from purchase to close. I mean, so that's above probably the median income for a year for some people. So the opportunities are out there, and, like, you can create, like, not to go long-winded, but that was like we helped the seller out. They were going to lose their house in foreclosure. We, countless amounts of contractors and people we were able to give work to. And then we were able to give a beautiful product to a new homeowner and then put that property back on the tax map. And then we were the last people to get paid and made money. So, I mean, it's like, you can do it the right way and make money, you know?
Yeah, man. That's what I love about you, dude, is like, you just want like everyone to win. And that resonates. Like, you don't win if everyone else doesn't win.
No. And, you know, that I feel like that's a mindset that is cultivated, right? It's an abundance mindset, and there's so many opportunities out there and, you know, ways to help people and create win-win situations for everyone. And it's a lot more fun when you're working with people and you're everyone, you know, you're having fun and it's all aligning for sure.
Heck yeah, man. Now for everyone listening, I'm sure some people are going to want to reach out to you, Chris. So like, what are some of the social channels where people can say hello, pick your brain, or get connected with you, man?
Yeah, probably Instagram's would be the easiest. It's Chris Flips Rock. So CHRIS Flips ROC. Reach out if you have any questions or comments. I love helping people. And someone reached out the other day where he has been following me for a little bit, and he bought his first rental property. That's awesome. Like, just the coolest thing ever. So if I can help in any way, reach out and give you my best advice.
That's pretty sweet. And you also have a podcast on Bigger Pockets too. So if people want to check that podcast out, where can they go listen to that episode?
Yeah, it's Bigger Pockets Rookie. I don't know what the show is, but if you're on the Bigger Pockets Rookie podcast, I think it was 20, 30 episodes in there, and yeah, listen to that. And yeah, I mean that was such a huge, like, when I first started, I'm like, I would love to be on the Bigger Pockets podcast, and that was like one of my goals. I'm like, I'm going to do it, and I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm going to do it. And was able to get on there, and it was a great experience. And just goes to, like, if you want to do something, just figure out a way. Don't make an excuse and go through it. So, dude,
that's incredible, Chris. Well, I would love to keep this conversation going. Yeah, but I know you have to go and probably buy someone else's home. So I would really suggest you guys listening, give Chris a follow. Not that I don't think any less of anyone else, but like, Chris has a great business mindset. He has to serve and help people. And we have a very similar business when we go out to meet sellers. Like, we give them options and then put the ball back in their court. And in my opinion, that is the best way to do sales, is to educate and not sell someone on something that they don't need. You have to ask questions and find out their problems, and then you put the ball back in your court and you just lay all the cards out and allow them to make a guided decision and make the decision that's best for them. So he adds a ton of value there. Give him a follow, like him, and I'm sure he'd spend whatever time you guys needed, especially if you're willing to put in the action. I heard him say cold calling. So maybe someone's out there wants to get started who has some time and is motivated. Give Chris a call. Maybe he has a whole list of people that you can cold call for him. I don't know. Is that
sure?
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time, Chris. I appreciate it, my friend. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right, dude. See ya.
See ya.
That's all for this episode of the Flip for Freedom Show, but we have you covered with even more value. Head on over to the Flip for Freedom private Facebook page and gain free instant access to some incredible resources and Brett himself. There is power in numbers. Need accountability? Help closing your next deal or running some numbers? We have you covered. Take advantage of this limited opportunity. Interested in learning how to find, fund, fix, and successfully flip your next home? Looking for a serious dose